Hi everyone, Larry, WD0AKX. It's been several years since I did a shack tour, and some of you have noticed I've been making some changes and requested that I do a shack tour video. So I'm going to try to do that. This is my console that I had on the last shack tour I did, and nothing much has changed there, but I have other changes in the shack I will show you. But I will take you over the console again here. So let's start with this. So basically that's the console I had in my last shack video some years back. Nothing much has changed there. I did add a large screen monitor on the wall. Right now that is Flight Radar 24 that I have on there. When this console was designed, I designed this on paper at the time, and we didn't have computers in the shack much back then, so I wasn't thinking about any monitors or anything at that time. I had a good buddy of mine that was really good at woodworking, and he built it from my design, so it turned out just great. I could add some monitors on the top shelf if I wanted, I suppose, but my neck gets sore looking up at monitors all the time for the main monitors. The screen on the wall is fine, but for some constant use monitors, it just wouldn't work for me. So I have moved some things to the other side of the shack here, as you will see in a little while. So here's a brief rundown of what's in the console. Starting at the top here, this is an EQ Plus by WD0AKX. It's a transmit audio equalizer that I have a Heil Gold Line microphone run into. And this is probably overkill for these older radios, but since the older radios don't have built-in EQ on transmit, it does kind of tweak my audio a bit, so that's what I use that for. This is just an LED bar graph display for some of the audio going on here. Below that is a Drake antenna tuner. I use that for some of my Drake equipment off to the left, which I'll show you in a little while. I won that at a Hamfest back in the 1970s, I believe. Below that is a Behringer what is it here? WD002AKX. I use that for a lot of my audio in the shack. I have a PA system that I run to different speakers throughout the house on a 70-volt line, so I can mix my audio from the shack. If I want to listen to an HF rig in another room, things like that, I can pipe my audio from the shack to other rooms, including out in the garage. Below that is my Kenwood Ts 440. I bought that brand new back in 1987 or so. That's still working to this day. On the other side, a UTC time clock, a little scanner that I can quickly program to any frequency if I want to monitor something. Otherwise I have some local repeaters and things in there. LDG antenna tuner, the AT200 Pro 2. I don't use that very often. Most of my antennas are fairly resonant, but I have it in here. Occasionally I will need it on band edges or something, so that's why that's here. Below that is an old realistic scanner, which I do not use that anymore. I should take it out and put something else in, but have nothing to fit right there right now, so just left it. This is my antenna switch, the Heath kit. Bought that also way back in the 70s or early 80s. And that's what I use to switch my antennas. Here I have a Furman PL Plus power conditioner and light module. And I've used this in here for many years. A little extra lighting there. But I run most of my equipment through there. It's a power conditioner, and I got a AC line level meter here. And underneath the shelf is LED strip lights. Gotta have them, of course. Another backup HF radio these days for me is the FT847 Yaesu radio. It still works just fine, and I do use it from time to time. I have a newer HF rig on the other side of the shack that you'll be seeing that I use most of the time these days. And above that is an Ultragraph Pro audio EQ for receive, but this stuff here that I'm going to show you is way overkill for ham radio. You do not need this for ham radio communications and stuff. I do run the radios through it because I get a little better sound tailored to my ears, to how I like it. But like I say, this is unnecessary for ham radio. I have other things in the shack, other audio devices and things that I mainly use this for. So that's what this is for. This is a Pro VLA2 compressor. What do I use for my speakers for this equipment here, basically? Well, I have some amplified speakers. Many brands out there. I happen to get the Behringers. They are MS-16s, I believe. I have a pair of them, but you can just use one single speaker. But they're amplified, and the amplifier in those have a much lower distortion than the audio amplifiers in your HF radio. So they're going to sound much nicer, and you'll get a more full sound out of that type of speaker. You can come out of your speaker jack or headphone jack possibly on an HF radio and use this type of setup, but it probably won't sound quite as nice. You can get a much better sound coming out of an accessory port on the back of your HF radio, and I really like the sound I get out of amplified speakers like that. And by coming out of the receive accessory audio port off the back of your HF radio, you're bypassing the internal audio amp in the HF rig. I should clarify one thing. The amplified speakers, I said I have two of them. I have one with the built-in amplifier, and then the other one is just the speaker designed to be plugged into the main amplified one here. So it provides a stereo pair is what it does. This one is just the speaker with no built-in amplifier. There's my on-screen or on-the-wall monitor. It's just a TV from Walmart, and I have video piped in from across the shack here. And then I have my on-the-air light. I have a push-to-talk button here that I have wired into my EQ Plus to transmit with these HF radios. And then we'll move over to my classic Drake equipment here. And there's just a view of some of the QSL cards on the wall. So this equipment doesn't get on the air very often, but once in a while I will put it on the air. This was my first HF rig back in 1977, the TR4CW, which was a great radio and still is. The matching speaker, and then I later purchased the 2NT and the 2C. Oh, it looks like I got a message coming in. And anyhow, they were designed for novice operation. I bought them just a few years back. So this is the radio I used when I first got my ticket as a novice. I didn't have that novice equipment at the time. Like I say, I just kind of bought that recently from someone that wanted to sell it just as vintage equipment to have to look at, basically. But it works, and I put that on the air occasionally. And then my D104 Silver Eagle. I think I got that in '76. That's why it's a Silver Eagle. I used the Drake radio for many years, up until 1987 or 88 possibly, when I bought the Kenwood brand new. Something I forgot to show you underneath the console here. That's my power supply, my main power supply, and that's my PA system for running audio through the house. So now we can take a look at the other half of the shack here. So right now I have a Kenwood Hf Transceiver below the desk here, and I mainly use that for digital on HF right now. There's my device I use to pipe video to my wall screen, and that's a PIPO, I believe it's called. Yeah, PIPO. It's an Android device. Then I have TV monitor here, which also works as a video monitor, and I use it to monitor my front door, or I can send computer video from my main computer and use this as a second screen on my computer. And then some shelf items to look at, and some more wall items. So this is kind of my main seating spot in the shack here now, where I'm at most of the time, since I have the computer screens nearby. And this is my newer HF rig that I use most of the time these days with my Heil microphone. And this is my Yaesu FTDX 2000. And these are some other items on the top shelf, mainly for display. A DAC CB that somebody gave me one time. It looks nice up there, kind of a collector radio. Looks like my bird's kind of thirsty tonight. He's busy drinking there. And just some other items on the top shelf, mainly for display. N0HKA, Jim. His dad made me this sign with the call sign. Very nice. This is my newer HF transceiver that I use most of the time. These days it's the Yaesu FTDX 3000, and this is my dual band radio that I use for my base station here, the FTM 400XD. And it works very well for me. I have it mounted on kind of a stand there. Excuse the dust, it's hard to keep the dust out of the shack. And over to the right of that is a couple of Uniden scanners that I use in the shack that will do digital modes. The one on the top streams live all the time for Freeborn County in Minnesota, is where I live. This one I just use for miscellaneous things listening in the shack. Yeah, as you can see, I got a cobbled mess of wires back there I have to straighten out yet. Been moving some things around, so that's how it goes. And up above that is my Rotator Controller. On the left side here, my weather station, 26 degrees right now. Brr. And a backup dual band Yaesu radio with an attic antenna. And at the very north end of the shack, I have another computer. And that computer, I can feed the audio to the big screen on the wall too. And some miscellaneous audio equipment. I have an echo device. And below that, I'll show you this mixer. So from this mixer, while I'm sitting here in this position by the HF rig in the computer, I have computer audio into here. I have my Alexa device into here, and I have my HF radio into here, into this mixer, and my TV screen, my TV monitor over here. All run into this, and a couple other devices, a CD player and XM radio from the shack, coming into here. So I can run this into a local audio amp, which is the Sprout over there. And I'll show you the speakers I have hooked up to that for full sound in the shack. Or I can feed this mixer also to my other mixer across the shack and feed it to the house speakers. For full shack audio, I have these ELAC speakers hooked up to that Sprout audio amp, and they're not positioned correctly in the room actually as to how they should be for stereo sound, but it sounds really good in this room, and I can pipe any audio I want into that. Music sounds very good through that system, as well as HF audio sound. But we're about to the end here, I guess. Just some miscellaneous things on that side of the shack, and some more QSL cards up high on the wall here. Some wallpaper for you. So basically it all started right here. My first transistor radio, Philco Ford, at age 7 I believe I was at Christmas time. Got that from my folks. Been listening to radio and DXing radio ever since. One of my recent contacts was the International Space Station. That was a lot of fun. There's how the tracking looks for the space station on the big screen. And that can be found at spotthestation.nasa.gov. And then tracking. So there's a look at my shack. I hope you enjoyed the little tour here. And some people say, well, it looks like I got a message come in. Some people tell me, boy, you got a lot of money invested in radio and all this stuff. But if you look at it, over the years, I've been a ham since I was 13 years old in 1977. And I've hardly got rid of anything. I've collected it all these years, and it just builds up, and I end up with this. So you can get into ham radio very inexpensively. You don't have to start with all this. You know, I've just built this up. Most of my stuff has been used over the years, and I've just purchased a few things recently that are new, but it's not an expensive hobby, or it doesn't have to be. You can put what you want into it. If you want to spend a lot, you can, just like any hobby. So don't think it's expensive. But thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. 7.3 WD0AKX.